drive is his end and my beginning.
When your phone buzzes at 1:03 a.m., you know something's gone sideways. I was half asleep when my phone lit up the bedroom like a spotlight. The notification said it was from Jessica, my wife, but the actual contact name displayed was Dr. Brandon Hayes, work, her boss at Memorial Hospital. The message was short. She's occupied now. She'll call later. I stared at those words, trying to find some interpretation where occupied meant something innocent, but my brain kept circling back to the only conclusion that made sense. At 1:03 in the morning, my wife was with her boss, and he felt comfortable enough using her phone to text me like I was some interruption he could brush off. The rage hit me hard. But I'm a locksmith by trade, former cop by history, and dramatic by nature, so I channeled that fury into crafting the perfect response. I typed, "No need, you can have her. We're done." Then I added a period because nothing says I'm serious quite like proper punctuation. I hit send, set my phone down, and tried to fall back asleep. Spoiler alert, I could not. My brain was running laps, replaying every moment of the last few months, looking for signs I'd missed. 10 minutes passed. Then came the frantic pounding on my front door. Through the peephole, I got a good look at the disaster. Jessica was still in her scrubs, mascara running down her face in black rivers. Her hair was a mess. That specific kind that happens when you've been horizontal for reasons that have nothing to do with sleeping. Next to her stood Dr. Brandon Hayes, bleary-eyed, wearing his white coat. His hair was rumpled, clothes wrinkled. He had the appearance of a man who just realized he'd walked into a trap of his own making. They were both talking over each other. Jessica saying, "It's not what you think," while Hayes attempted to back her up with phrases like medical emergency that landed with zero credibility. I reached for the deadbolt with deliberate slowness, turned it exactly half an inch, just enough to let them hear it. Then I did the chain lock with theatrical flair. The metal chain slid into place with a satisfying clink. I let them beg through that 4-inch gap, standing there in my jeans and shirt, listening to them spew excuses. Jessica was crying real tears. Hayes was doing his best impression of a reasonable person. I stood there watching them perform their desperate duet through my chain-locked door. A locksmith who can't even keep his own marriage locked down. The irony wasn't lost on me. Morning arrived with all the grace of a hangover. I woke up on my couch with a crick in my neck. Empty beer bottles lined the coffee table and my phone was blowing up with notifications. At 7:47 a.m., my mother called. Mothers have this supernatural ability to sense when their children's lives are imploding from 300 miles away. "Michael Anthony Martinez," she started with my full name. "I need you to tell me why Jessica's car has been parked outside the hospital staff housing for 3 nights. Dolores from church saw it and told Patricia, who told me. Half the town thinks your wife is having an affair." "It's true, Ma. I found out last night at 1 a.m., which is apparently when all good marriages go to die." The silence lasted 3 seconds before she launched into rapid-fire Spanish and English. I held the phone away and let her get it out. After I escaped with promises to come for dinner, I surveyed my apartment. Wedding photos that now felt like crime scene evidence. Coffee cup stains mapping out every morning we'd sat together, pretending we were still connected. Jessica showed up at 10:23 a.m., still had a key, which I'd need to change. Professional hazard of being a locksmith. "Mike, please just listen," she started. I held up one hand. "Let me guess. It was an emergency that required Dr. McDreamy to tend to you at 1 in the morning using your phone because his fingers were too busy saving lives." She flinched. "There was a problem with a patient's IV. Brandon was helping me, and I was so exhausted, I fell asleep in his office. That's all that happened." I laughed, short and bitter. "And he just happened to use your phone to text me like he owned it. Tell me why Dr. Hayes was comfortable enough to send me a message from your phone." "Mike, you're being ridiculous." "No, Jessica, I'm being rational." I started pacing. "You want to know what's ridiculous, thinking I'm stupid enough to buy this garbage?" Her face crumpled. "It's been months of distance between us. Months of you working late, me pulling double shifts. I felt alone, invisible. So you chose late-night drama with your boss instead of one honest conversation with your husband? You felt alone, so you made sure I'd feel alone too." She was sobbing now. Part of me wanted to comfort her, but the bigger part was too busy being angry. If this was really an emergency, why did Dr. Hayes show up in a white coat at 1 in the morning? Like he was making a house call. Did he stop to change? Was there a wardrobe consultation? She didn't have an answer. She just sat there crying while the rain beat against the windows. I gave Jessica 45 minutes before I told her to leave. The second her car pulled out, I called Danny Sullivan, my old partner from my cop days. He'd left the force to run a private investigation firm. Danny, my wife's sleeping with her boss. Found out via text at 1 a.m. Need you to either talk me down or help me dig up dirt to bury him. There was a pause. Jesus Christ, Mike. Jessica? The nurse who bakes cookies for fundraisers? That's the one. The guy's name is Dr. Brandon Hayes. He's her boss at Memorial, drives a BMW, and has the kind of face that makes you want to punch it. I'm coming over. Don't do anything stupid in the next 20 minutes. Danny showed up 19 minutes later, built like a bouncer, carrying 2 enormous cups of coffee. He handed me one and settled into the armchair. Talk, he commanded. I told him everything, starting with the 1:03 a.m. text and ending with Jessica's pathetic explanation. Danny listened without interrupting. When I finished, he leaned forward. Here's the thing about liars, Mike. They think they're smarter than everyone else, but liars always make mistakes. You want my opinion? This wasn't a one-time thing. This has been going on for a while, which means there's a pattern, and patterns leave evidence. What kind of evidence? Paper trail, bank records, phone logs, credit card statements. People lie, but phones don't lie. Money doesn't lie. Danny was getting animated. You want the real documented truth that holds up in divorce court? Then we need to look. Good old-fashioned detective work. I felt something shift in my chest. I want to look. I want to know everything. That's what I like to hear. Danny grinned. Now tell me everything about this Dr. Hayes character. I'll start running background checks. Guys like this usually have a pattern. This probably isn't the first time. I could use my locksmith skills to help, I offered. Open some closed cases, literally. Danny groaned and threw a pillow at my head. Worst pun I've heard all week. But yeah, your skills might come in handy. I was actually smiling now. Having a plan, having Danny in my corner made the disaster feel less like drowning. I'll start digging into Hayes' background today, Danny said. You focus on documenting everything from your end. Every conversation, every suspicious detail. We're building a case. 3 days later, I got a text from an unknown number while rekeying locks at a real estate office. We need to talk. It's about Jessica and Brandon. Emma. Jessica's friend who taught spin classes downtown. I texted back, Coffee Bean on Main, 6 p.m. Come alone. Don't tell Jessica. She responded immediately. Already planning on it. The Coffee Bean was aggressively hipster. I showed up 10 minutes early, ordered an Americano that cost $7, and claimed a corner booth. Emma walked in at 6 o'clock wearing yoga pants and an oversized hoodie, carrying an enormous water bottle. She slid into the booth without ordering anything. Thanks for meeting me, she started, voice shaky. I've been going back and forth for 3 days. I couldn't keep this to myself anymore. So what's this about? And please don't tell me you're here to defend Jessica. She shook her head hard. No, God, no. I'm here because I have proof. She pulled out her phone and set it on the table. Proof that this is so much worse than you think. My heart rate kicked up. What kind of proof? She unlocked her phone with trembling fingers. There's a group chat. It's called The Night Shift. It's disgusting. A bunch of doctors and nurses, mostly men, bragging about their conquests like it's a game. She turned the phone toward me. The chat was exactly what she described. Crude, mean, filled with locker room talk, names, dates, inside jokes that made my skin crawl, emoji reactions ranging from fire symbols to thumbs ups. And there was Brandon Hayes' name, not just participating, leading. He was the ringleader, posting updates like a coordinator. Late shift scored me another point. Martinez's wife is easier than I thought. Husband's a locksmith. Ironic since he can't lock down his own marriage, followed by laughing emojis. I stared at those words until they burned into my retinas. The casual cruelty, the way he'd reduced Jessica to a point, a punchline. There's more, Emma said quietly, scrolling down. Jessica's name appeared multiple times with details that made me want to throw my coffee against the wall. Comments from other members congratulating Hayes, making jokes, treating the whole thing like fantasy football. How long has this been going on? I asked. The chat's been active for at least 2 years. Jessica's name started appearing about 4 months ago. Emma pulled her phone back. Mike, I need you to understand. I didn't know it was this bad. Jessica told me she was interested in someone at work, and I helped her cover. I lied for her. I thought it was just flirting. I didn't know there was a whole hunting club treating women like trophies. I wanted to be angry at her, but the bigger part recognized she was here now with evidence. Why are you showing me this now? I saw the messages from the night you found out. The chat went crazy. They were laughing about it, Mike. Laughing about you finding out, making jokes, taking bets on whether Jessica would go back to you. That's when I realized this wasn't some romantic affair. This was carnivory. These are people with power using it to manipulate others and bragging about it. Let me get this straight. My wife's having an affair with her boss who's part of some medical conquest club, and you helped cover for her because you thought it was romantic? When you say it like that, it sounds even worse, Emma whispered. That's because it is worse. I rubbed my face. Can you send me those screenshots? Already done. I airdropped them while you were reading. She reached for her water bottle. There's something else. I'm not the only one who helped cover. There are other people who knew and either didn't care or actively participated. Emma stood up, gathering her things. I'm sorry, Mike. I'm so sorry I was part of this. But I thought you deserved to know the truth, all of it. Thanks for this, I said. This is proof. You just gave me ammunition. She nodded and left. I pulled up the screenshots again and scrolled through them slowly. They thought they were untouchable. They forgot that every lock has a key. Danny showed up 4 days later carrying a folder thick with documents. He didn't knock, just used the spare key and walked in to find me surrounded by printouts, a legal pad covered in notes, and enough empty coffee cups to qualify as a health hazard. You look like hell, Danny said, setting the folder down with a thud. When's the last time you slept? Please tell me that folder contains something good. It's going to make your whole week. Danny flipped open the folder. Meet Dr. Brandon Hayes' greatest hits collection. Turns out your wife's boyfriend has a history longer than a receipt. Complaints going back 7 years, 3 different hospitals, textbook carnivory pattern. I pulled the first document closer. It was a complaint filed by a nurse named Jennifer Kaufman in 2018, detailing how Dr. Hayes had made inappropriate comments, suggested discussing her career over drinks, then became hostile when she declined. The complaint had been investigated briefly and quietly, filed away with a note. Matter resolved through mediation. That's corporate speak for we paid her to go away, right? Bingo. Danny pulled out another document. This is Jessica Torres. Similar story. Hayes pursued her aggressively. She initially reciprocated because she was young and flattered. When she tried to end things, he made her work life hell. Switched her to worse shifts, gave her poor performance reviews, made comments about her being emotionally unstable. She filed a complaint, resolved through confidential settlement with an NDA. He kept pulling documents out. Sarah Chun in 2020, Amanda Rodriguez in 2021, Melissa Grant in 2022. Each story followed the same pattern. Hayes identified a target, pursued them with charm and professional intimidation, got what he wanted, then either discarded them or made their lives miserable. How many are there? I asked. 8 documented complaints I could find, but those are just the ones who filed formal complaints. For every complaint in this folder, there's probably 3 or 4 other people who stayed quiet. Danny pulled out another section. And this is the really interesting part. Memorial Hospital, where he works now, they knew. They saw his history when they hired him 2 years ago. Did a background check, saw the complaints, hired him anyway because he's a good doctor with an impressive resume. I stared at the evidence. So this guy has been doing this for years. Multiple women tried to hold him accountable, and the system just keeps protecting him. That's exactly what I'm telling you, Danny confirmed. This guy knows how to work the system. He's got it down to a science. My wife didn't just cheat on me with some random guy. She cheated on me with a serial hunter. It makes it ammunition, Danny said, leaning forward. Look, I know this is personal, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to be smart about this. We're going to collect all the proof. We're going to find these women and give them choices. What kind of choices? The choice to come forward together. The choice to break their NDAs because NDAs don't hold up when there's a pattern of criminal behavior. The choice to stop being isolated sufferers and start being a coordinated force. Danny was getting animated. 1 complaint gets buried. 8 complaints from 8 different women all coming forward at the same time. That's a pattern. That's a story. That doesn't go away with a quiet settlement. I felt something like hope stirring. So we reach out to these women. We show them they're not alone. We build a case too big to ignore. Exactly. We document everything. We make this airtight. Danny tapped the folder. This guy thinks he's untouchable, but systems are made of people, and people can be persuaded to do the right thing when the evidence is overwhelming. So, where do we start? We start by reaching out carefully, respectfully, understanding that some of these women might not want anything to do with this. But we give them the choice. We show them the pattern. He stood up. And then we watched Dr. Brandon Hayes' house of cards come tumbling down. I looked at the folder. Good, let's get to work. Laura Hayes called me on a Tuesday morning while I was installing a smart lock. The name said, unknown caller, but something made me answer. Is this Michael Martinez? The voice was female, composed, with an edge that comes from someone who's moved into strategic planning. Depends on who's asking. This is Laura Hayes, Brandon's ex-wife. I heard you're collecting information about my ex-husband's activities, and I think we should talk. I have things you'll want to see. I nearly dropped my drill. Brandon's ex-wife. I'm listening. Not over the phone. Lunch today, Rosie's Diner on the east side, 12:30. See you there. Come alone. She hung up. I finished the installation in a daze and spent the drive trying to figure out what Brandon's ex-wife wanted. Rosie's Diner was classic Americana, with red vinyl booths held together by duct tape. I spotted Laura sitting in a corner booth back to the wall. Mid-30s, professionally dressed, dark hair in a severe bun, sharp, intelligent eyes. She looked exactly like someone who'd been married to Brandon Hayes and lived to tell the tale. I slid into the booth. You look better than I expected, Laura said. I was picturing someone more destroyed. Brandon has a way of destroying people. Give it time. I'm a slow-motion car crash. A waitress came over. We both ordered black coffee. I'm going to cut to the chase, Laura said once our coffees arrived. She slid a small flash drive across the table. I kept everything. Photos, audio recordings, text messages, emails, video clips that Brandon saved on his personal computer because he's the kind of narcissist who documents his own crimes. It's all on here. I stared at the flash drive. Why? Why keep all this? And why give it to me now? Laura took a long drink. I kept it as insurance. When I found out about Brandon's affairs, and yes, plural, your wife is far from the first. I was young enough to think about forgiving him. I believed his excuses. But I wasn't so stupid that I deleted the evidence. I backed everything up. Multiple copies in multiple locations. And things got ugly? Things got nuclear, Laura confirmed. Brandon doesn't just cheat. He collects. He keeps score. He saves messages and photos and recordings like they're trophies. He has folders on his computer organized by name and date, ratings of his conquests, notes about which ones were easy and which required more work. He's not a man having affairs. He's a hunter documenting his kills. My stomach turned. He's actually keeping records? It's exactly a game to him, and he's smart about it. Never keeps anything that could be traced professionally. No hospital emails, no work phones. Everything's on his personal devices, encrypted and password protected. He thinks he's untouchable. Laura leaned forward. But I had access when we were married. I copied files before the divorce. I saved passwords, I documented patterns, and I've been sitting on this for 3 years waiting for the right time. Why now? Because I was scared, Laura admitted. Brandon has money, connections, lawyers who could bury me. During the divorce, I used the threat of exposing him to get a better settlement, but never followed through. But you have nothing to lose. Your marriage is already over. And from what I hear, you're building a case with multiple sufferers. I picked up the flash drive. What exactly is on here? Everything, Laura said. Recordings of phone calls where he brags to friends. Video clips he secretly recorded during intimate moments. Some women knew they were being filmed, some didn't. Text message threads where he discusses strategy for seducing nurses. Photos he saved as mementos. And most damning, a spreadsheet, an actual Excel spreadsheet where he tracked names, dates, ratings, and notes about each woman. He called it his personal achievement log. I felt cold satisfaction. This was Brandon Hayes' own records condemning him. Why are you giving this to me? Laura finished her coffee and stood up. I get to watch him fall. I get to know I played a part in stopping him from hurting more people. And I get to sleep at night knowing I finally did something instead of sitting on evidence. She pulled out a $20 bill. Use it well, Mr. Martinez. Make sure it counts, because if you screw this up, he'll know where it came from and I'll have to disappear. She walked out. I sat there with the flash drive in my hand, knowing I was now holding the key to everything. The Memorial Hospital Annual Charity Gala was scheduled for Saturday, October 18th, which gave me exactly 2 weeks to plan. The gala was one of those black tie affairs where rich people paid $500 a plate, And this year's guest of honor was Dr. Brandon Hayes himself, receiving the Excellence in Medicine Award, because apparently the universe has a twisted sense of humor. When Danny told me about the gala, I'd laughed so hard I nearly choked. You're kidding! They're giving him an award? The nomination was submitted before your situation came to light, and they're too far into planning to back out. That's when the idea hit me. Why not use the gala itself as the stage for Brandon's downfall? Why file complaints and hope the system works when I could hijack his moment of triumph and turn it into a public execution? I laid out the plan to Danny over beers. So, you want to hack into the hospital's AV system during the gala and broadcast Brandon's greatest hits to a room full of donors, administrators, and local media? Not hack. I prefer gain authorized access through my knowledge of security systems and the fact that I personally installed the locks on the AV control room 6 months ago. I grinned. I'm a locksmith. I know every entrance, every access point. I'm not breaking in. I'm just opening doors that are already there. Danny stared at me before breaking into a grin. You magnificent, vengeful son of a tool. This is either the best idea you've ever had or the worst. Why not both? Over the next 2 weeks, I became intimately familiar with the memorial event space and AV setup. I reached out to Tommy Chen, a guy from my cop days who'd become an AV technician. Tommy owed me a favor and gave me a crash course in basic system operation. Danny handled the legal infrastructure, making sure we had reporters lined up. He reached out to Maria Gonzalez at the local news station, an investigative journalist who'd been trying to break a story about hospital misconduct for years. He also contacted freelance journalists specializing in medical ethics violations. We're not just exposing Brandon, Danny explained. We're creating a moment that can't be ignored. We're making sure there are enough witnesses and media coverage that the hospital has no choice but to respond publicly. Emma became our inside coordinator, keeping nervous nurses calm and making sure the women who'd agreed to come forward knew what was happening. She reached out to several of Hayes' sufferers, explaining there was going to be a public reckoning. Some chose to attend, wanting to watch Brandon's face when his world collapsed. Others decided to stay home, but gave permission to represent their stories. A few wanted nothing to do with it, which we respected. Laura was quality control, going through every file on the flash drive with meticulous attention. She put together a highlight reel that was only 12 minutes long, but contained enough evidence to bury Brandon completely. Audio clips of him bragging, screenshots of the night shift chat, excerpts from his infamous spreadsheet with names redacted, but numbers visible. 12 minutes, Laura told me when she handed over the finalized drive. That's all you need. I've timed it to sync with the award presentation. Right after they announce his name and he takes the stage, you start the video. Maximum impact. We rehearsed until I could execute it in my sleep. Danny would be positioned near exits with journalists. Emma would be scattered throughout the audience with sufferers providing support. Laura would be in the back watching from the shadows. And I would be in the AV control room ready to plug in the flash drive at exactly the right moment. The night before the gala, I sat with the flash drive in my hand. It was absurd. It was probably illegal in ways I hadn't fully considered. It was definitely going to blow up my life even more. But it was also necessary because men like Brandon Hayes don't stop on their own. They keep going until someone stops them. I plugged the flash drive into my laptop one more time. 12 minutes of truth. 12 minutes of a man condemning himself with his own evidence. The morning of the gala arrived with ominous gray sky. I woke at 6 a.m. without an alarm. My phone rang at 8:15. Jessica's name lit up the screen. I stared at it, then answered. Mike, her voice came through wrecked. Mike, please don't hang up. Well, you've got me on the phone. I ended things with Brandon. 2 days ago, I told him it was over, that I made a mistake, that I want to try to fix things with you. Please consider couples counseling. I laughed, harsh and bitter. You ended things 2 days ago. After 4 months of sneaking around, after lying to my face, after letting your boss text me at 1 a.m, and now you want counseling? I know I screwed up. Screwed up is forgetting to take out the trash. What you did was make a conscious choice repeatedly for months to betray me. That's not screwing up. That's systematic deception. She was crying. Mike, please. I love you. Brandon was a mistake, but it's over now. I've blocked his number. I've put in for a transfer. Let me ask you something. Did Brandon record you? Did he take photos, videos, save your messages? Did he document your relationship like some kind of conquest? The silence was deafening. It stretched out for 5 seconds, then 10. "He promised he'd deleted everything," Jessica finally whispered. "After I told him we were done, he said he'd delete all the messages and photos." "Yeah, like men with egos promise. Let me tell you something about Brandon Hayes. He doesn't delete anything. He collects, he saves, he documents every conquest like he's building a museum. So no, he didn't delete your messages. They're probably backed up in 3 different cloud storage accounts with labels and dates and maybe even ratings." Her crying intensified. "Oh God, Mike, you have to help me. If those photos get out, my job, my reputation, my family." "Now you care about your job and reputation? Where was that concern 4 months ago?" "I didn't know he was recording. I didn't know he saved everything. I didn't know about the other women or the chat group." She stopped. "Wait, how do you know about all this?" "Because unlike you, I did my homework. When I found out my wife was cheating, I didn't just sit around crying. I investigated. I talked to people. I found evidence. And what I found is so much worse than you cheating. What I found is a pattern of carnivory behavior going back years. Multiple sufferers, systematic misuse, documentation that would make a prosecutor weep." Another pause. "Mike, what are you planning to do?" "Because tonight is the hospital gala. Tonight, Brandon gets his award. And tonight, everyone at that gala is going to see exactly what kind of doctor he really is." "No, Mike, you can't. Please don't do this publicly. It'll destroy me, too. Everyone will know." "You should have thought about that before you let Brandon take pictures. You made your choices. You chose to have an affair. You chose to trust a man who collects women like baseball cards. And now you get to live with the consequences, just like I have to live with marrying someone who betrayed me." "Mike, please." I cut her off. "Stop begging. Stop making promises you won't keep. It's done. We're done. Whatever you thought we had is gone and you eliminated it. You can hide if you want. You can call in sick, stay home, pretend none of this is happening. But you can't unsend what's been saved. The truth is coming out whether you like it or not." I hung up before she could respond, set my phone down, and finished my coffee. Tonight, the truth came out. The Memorial Hospital annual charity gala was exactly as pretentious as I'd imagined. Ice sculptures shaped like stethoscopes, white tablecloths, expensive flowers, string quartet. I'd arrived early, dressed in my only suit, charcoal gray. Danny had secured me a ticket through Patricia, one of Brandon's sufferers, who was thrilled to facilitate his public execution. She'd helped me get access to the AV control room earlier, letting me in while I installed a backup system that would prevent anyone from shutting down the presentation once it started. The room filled fast with wealthy donors in designer gowns and tuxedos, hospital board members, local politicians, medical staff in their formal best. I spotted Danny near the entrance looking uncomfortable in a suit, standing next to Maria Gonzalez from Channel 7 and at least 3 other journalists. They were trying to look casual. Emma was scattered throughout the crowd with several women from Danny's folder. Jennifer Kaufman, Jessica Torres, Sarah Chun, who'd flown in from Colorado, all looking nervous and determined. Laura was in the back wearing a black dress, looking like she was attending a funeral. She caught my eye and gave me the smallest nod. The ceremony started at 7:30. The hospital CEO took the stage and launched into a speech about Memorial's commitment to excellence. Then came Dr. Alvarez, the chief of staff, to introduce the evening's honoree. "It is my great privilege," she began, "to present this year's Excellence in Medicine Award to a physician who embodies everything we value at Memorial Hospital. His dedication to patients is unmatched. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Brandon Hayes." The applause started, building as Brandon made his way to the stage with confident stride. He looked impeccable in his tuxedo, with that smile of someone who'd gotten away with everything. He shook hands with Dr. Alvarez, accepted the crystal trophy, and stepped up to the microphone. "Thank you," he began, voice smooth and practiced. "I am truly humbled by this recognition. When I became a doctor, I made a commitment to serve my patients with compassion, integrity." That's when I hit the trigger. The lights dimmed slightly and the massive projection screens on either side of the stage flickered to life. Brandon stopped mid-sentence, confused, turning to look at the screens. The first slide appeared, a screenshot of the night shift chat group blown up to 15 feet tall in crystal clear high definition. The group name visible at the top, with the list of 23 members, including Brandon's name with a crown emoji designating him as administrator. Below that, message after message of crude jokes and conquest comparisons. The room went silent. Not comfortable silence, but shocked silence. Then came the audio. Brandon's voice playing through the surround sound with perfect clarity. Late shifts scored me another point. Martinez's wife is easier than I thought. Husband's a locksmith. Ironic since he can't lock down his own marriage. Followed by laughter. I watched the color drain from Brandon's face as he stood trapped in a spotlight, watching his own words condemn him on screens the size of billboards. He started to move, reaching for Dr. Alvarez, but the presentation kept rolling. More screenshots. The spreadsheet, his personal achievement log with names redacted but numbers visible. 47 entries over 7 years. Ratings from 1 to 10. Notes about difficulty level. Clinical cold proof that this was systematic predation, treated like a hobby requiring meticulous record-keeping. The shock was turning into horror, disgust, anger. I could see it rippling through the crowd, faces contorting, hands covering mouths, people turning to neighbors. People were standing up, some moving closer, others backing away. Jessica was sitting near the front with nursing colleagues. I watched her collapse forward with her face in her hands, whole body shaking with sobs. The presentation reached its crescendo, a video clip of Brandon at a bar, drunk and bragging about his conquests, referring to nurses at Memorial as his personal hunting ground, joking about manipulating exhausted women looking for validation from authority figures. His own face, his own voice, his own words playing for everyone to see. I stepped out of the shadows, walking toward the stage. Someone needed to speak, to narrate, to make sure there was no room for misunderstanding. "Good evening," I said, my voice clear through the microphone system. "My name is Michael Martinez. That's my wife, Dr. Hayes, was bragging about. What you're watching isn't a misunderstanding or a technical glitch. This is documentation. This is evidence. This is Dr. Brandon Hayes, in his own words, showing you exactly who he is when he thinks nobody's watching." The crowd was in full chaos. People shouting, some trying to leave, others pulling out phones to record. Dr. Alvarez was yelling at the AV staff trying to shut it down, but my backup system was doing exactly what I designed, playing through to the end. Brandon finally found his voice, trying to explain, to excuse. "This is taken out of context. This is a violation of my privacy." "Is there a warranty on that charm?" I called out, because it seems to be malfunctioning pretty badly. Some people laughed, nervous, shocked laughter. Others just stared, seeing the dawning realization that everything they'd thought about Dr. Hayes was a lie. Security was moving toward the stage, not to stop the presentation, but to escort Brandon out as the crowd turned hostile. People were shouting at him. The presentation ended exactly 12 minutes after it started, screens going dark and lights coming back up to reveal a room full of people who would never look at Memorial or Dr. Hayes the same way again. Mission accomplished. Morning brought news coverage everywhere. Social media exploded. Brandon was on administrative leave, probably getting fired. The hospital launched an internal inquiry. Some nurses came by to thank me. Others wouldn't make eye contact. Small towns are brutal with gossip, and Jessica's reputation was thoroughly destroyed. She might keep her job, might not. Honestly, not my problem anymore. Laura disappeared like someone who'd completed their mission. Emma left town to teach spin classes somewhere with fewer whispers. Danny went back to his PI work. I went home to a house that felt different. Not empty, just honest. Filed for divorce the next week. They thought they'd locked me out of the truth. They forgot I'm the guy who makes the keys. I didn't want to destroy anyone. I just wanted accountability. Turns out truth is cleaner than living a lie. The locksmith finally had his favorite kind of quiet unlocked.